Okay, it's a little bit after 7, so we'll get started, and then anybody who comes late, I'll just, add them. Um, it's just as long as everybody can hear me and see us and everything. My name is Kristen Hoban, and I'm the program coordinator for Weller Health Education at Lehigh Valley Hospital. And this is a topic that I have gotten so many requests for. The COVID obviously has affected everyone, all students, teachers, everybody. But there's been a significant impact to student athletes. There's been a disruption to, their seasons, and obviously anybody who knows, high school athletes, they're pretty all in, so it really kind of is a huge part of their life. So this has definitely taken a toll on them. So we just wanted to put this together and have just a little bit more discussion about it, validated. It is, the feelings that they're feeling are very real and valid, and can lead to some, big emotional impact with depression and, anxiety. So I am just hosting tonight. I can jump in here and there, but our expert of the evening is Casey Sabat. And Casey is a licensed professional counselor, and she is a behavioral health specialist with our school-based behavioral health program at Lehigh Valley Riley Children's Hospital. So Casey works with adolescents and students K through 12, Casey?
Yes.
K through 12, right. That is, her job. She's with them all the time. So she's a great resource. She's also was a student athlete herself. She played soccer in high school, cheer in high school, and I believe she still does play soccer. So,
I do.
So she does. So I think her perspective was a really good one. I did not play any sports in high school, so I don't have that perspective. But I believe that her perspective will lend a lot to this presentation. So that's why we're really glad to be able to have her on this project with us. So with that, I'm actually going to turn things over to Casey. And then, if there are any questions, definitely, put them in the chat, or, if you want to unmute, we can, talk. But I think we're ready to go. Casey, are you ready to go?
I'm ready. Thank you so much, Kristen.
Awesome.
All right. So yes, the reason we're here tonight is we're trying to focus on understanding the emotional impact that this pandemic, so COVID-19, has had on student athletes specifically. So in society, the pandemic has had a huge impact on all of us in our own individual ways. For student athletes, this impact can be very different between athletes. So athletes on the same team, athletes playing similar sports, different sports, as well as students who don't play sports at all. And everyone approaches stressors differently. And you may feel what others don't feel, or feel as if others don't understand because of your unique perspective. Teammates become like our family. We work towards our own goals, but then also our team goals. And this is really important when we're talking about how the pandemic has impacted student athletes, because what we're talking about is how did it impact us as individuals, but then us as teammates. And when we can no longer work towards that goal together, we feel disruption, we feel disconnected, we feel a sense of misunderstanding, or a sense of like, where do I fit in now? We may have that fear of missing out. We may have that fear of, will I ever play again? Those questions that come up, all of these things are very normal because we have that shared experience of we've gotten through all of our years together as teammates, and your teammates may change over the years, whether you play in college, in high school, recreation. Our experiences change, our teams change, but what stays the same is us. We stay the same. Our skills are still there. Our personalities are still there. And the best advice that I have for everybody, especially during this time, is that no one is doing it right and no one is doing it better than anybody else. We're all doing it together. We're all just doing it. And I think that's sometimes what we have to kind of take a step back and realize, that we're all just trying to do it, and we're doing it the best that we can with what we have. And as we're approaching this next slide here, we're here to talk about what is the impact. So what is the impact that this pandemic has had on our students, our parents, our athletes? The honest answer is that it impacts everyone differently. At times, you may feel like your emotions are crashing over you like a wave. You may feel some emotions a little bit, or you may not feel anything at all sometimes. The change in our emotions happens sometimes very quickly, or it slowly progresses. And it may feel like you've lost a part of who you are, and that can cause that disconnect, that disruption in our daily structure, our daily routines. And you may have a lot of questions. I've listed a few of them here on these slides of everything that's very uncertain right now. People have a lot of questions. What's next? Will I get to play? How do I get to play? Again, going back to the idea that even though these questions are here, we want to ask ourselves, who can we ask these questions of? Where can we find these answers? And I think the honest answer, and we were just talking about this right before this presentation started, the honest answer is that it changes. It changes almost every day. The restrictions change, the requirements change. But again, going back to that idea that we are still who we are still the same person. How can we use the skills that we've learned in this sport or with our teammates or from our coaches? How can we use those skills to better ourselves? I've listed here a wide variety of emotions. And I think sometimes we talk about the not so good emotions that don't feel the best, such as fear, anxiety, loss, disappointment. But then there's also some acceptance, relief, maybe some guilt about, wow, I don't have practice every single day. What am I going to do? And then feeling bad, like, oh, I should be doing that. It's that constant kind of tug and pull or tug of war game that we play with ourselves, because our emotions are just responding right now to things that change every single day. And like I said, nobody's doing it better. Everybody's in the same situation. Schools are obviously have different circumstances and different approaches, but we're all in the same pandemic. We're all going through the same changes that happen daily. The best advice I can also give here is, with all of these emotions, it's okay to not be okay. I want you to feel as if you can allow yourself to feel. Acknowledge what you feel. Recognize what you feel. Ask yourself, what am I truly feeling? It's okay to not be okay. You can ask for help if your feelings are overwhelming. That I think when we go back to the core of what sports are and what our teammates are, who our coaches are, we remember that we work together communicating all the time. In a game, we wouldn't just give up. If we're losing, we wouldn't just say, I'm done, I'm quitting. We say, let's work together. How can we get through this? Let's try again. Where can we improve? All of these people in our supports are who we have in place, and we can use them through this time to say, I'm not okay right now. I have this question. I'm not sure where to turn. I'm not sure what to do. Another thing here is to view this time as growth, a time for growth. When we lose a game, we're disappointed. But again, that doesn't mean we give up. The example I always give when I'm doing individual counseling is that when toddlers first learn to walk and they fall, we don't say, just stay there. We say, get back up. We cheer them on. And that's what we need to do for ourselves. And that's what we need to do for each other as individuals, as teammates, as coaches, parents. We don't just say stop. We say, let's try again. And we have to be unique, creative, innovative. Those are words I say all the time. Especially now, people are finding so many different ways to do the same thing, just in a different way. So if we're not playing high school sports, that could look like recreational sports. If we're not playing high school sports, it could be pickup games. It could be just kicking a ball at a safe distance with our friends, getting out there, just doing something different to be able to be still involved, to be resilient, to build those characteristic traits that we need for life. There will be jobs that we lose. There will be opportunities that we lose out on. There will be bad grades. All of these things lead to disappointment, frustration, very normal and valid feelings, but we learn from sports resiliency. We learn from disappointment resiliency. We build our character and we can really learn as we grow and change through this. Another important thing to remember here is you're not alone. Again, nobody's doing it better than you. Nobody's doing it correctly. We just need to realize we don't have to suffer alone, and we're not alone in this. There's many athletes across the entire nation who are in the same exact position, different positions, or having the same questions. And it's important to have those conversations. Find a support group of your own, find your teammates, ask those questions, have healthy conversations about not being okay sometimes. And if you're okay, have those conversations too. What's allowing you to be okay? What is making it better for you? How are you getting through? And you can learn from some other people. The best thing here, I love this quote here at the bottom, that these are normal reactions to an abnormal situation. Nobody has ever done this before. We've never had high school sports canceled or postponed, or having practice but not having games. We haven't experienced this before, so we don't know what to do. We're just doing it the best we can with what we have. A lot of times when we think of sports, we think of it as part of our identity. So oftentimes we will say, I'm a football player, instead of I play football. I always say here to people that before we are a football player, a soccer player, a daughter, a brother, a sister, an aunt, an uncle, before we're any of those titles, before we're a student even, we're humans. Humans have emotions. These emotions are completely normal, completely acceptable. I don't ever like to call an emotion a bad emotion or a good emotion. Emotions are emotions. It's what we do with those emotions. So we have to remember, before we are a football player, a soccer player, a cheerleader, a field hockey player, we're humans. And the big question here is, what happens when that part of us goes under quarantine? What happens when the pandemic hits and all of these things about who we thought we were, or what we thought we were, change? The reality is not much changes. We're still ourselves. And when athletes base their social identity solely on a sport, you can lose a sense of yourself when you're unable to participate in your sport. When our identity is disrupted, we're more likely to experience that lasting feeling of distress. We feel like we're no longer us. And then sometimes I just encourage people to take that step back and say, I'm me. I'm a human. I can get through this. And I think we learn those skills again when we think about sports, and we think about how we work together as a team, and how we overcome, and how we move forward. All of those skills are still there, and you can use them to the best of your ability to fill those parts of you that feel like they're missing. So what can you do to feel better? So we all want that answer. We're all searching for, well, if nobody's doing it right, if nobody's doing it better, what can I do to feel better? And I think it really comes down to control what you can control. And a lot of times we feel like with restrictions, we have no control. We can't tell us who is telling us to do what. We can't say no, we have to do it. And the idea is, although there's a lot beyond our control, the canceling of the seasons, postponement of games or the season altogether, canceling of events, anything like that that's happening, we can't control all of those things. We can only control our thoughts, our feelings, and our reactions to those things. How we handle those things is what is within our control. So how do we make ourselves feel better? Talk it out. I encourage so many people to just acknowledge, what are you feeling? What's making you feel that way? Maintain those healthy relationships and use your support systems. Invest in those support systems that mean something to you. Look outward or even inward and say, who am I closest to? Where can I build those relationships? I have so many clients that tell me, oh, I called my Aunt Sally. I haven't talked to her in 3 months or 6 months, and she's halfway across the United States, but I got to connect with her. And that's so important. Maintain those relationships, healthy relationships. Use your support system, the people that are at your games, who are in your corner, who are cheering you on. Talk it out. Be open. Be honest, communicate, just as you would if you were playing the game in a normal season. Take a break, just like we have timeouts, just like we have breaks, just like we have half times. Take a break. It's okay to disconnect. That could be disconnecting from social media. That could be taking a nap. That could be turning off our phone for the afternoon and just enjoying a day technology free. It could be not reading news articles. It could be turning off the television. Taking a break could just be, I need time to take care of myself. I need to just pause. And it's okay to pause. It's okay to slow down. It's okay to take that break. Next here is practicing coping skills. And I know I tell people all the time, nobody walks around saying, I'm using my coping skills. I'm using my coping skills. It's not a conversation we have, but we know what makes us feel good. And it's recognizing, like, if I know listening to music makes me feel good, I'm going to listen to music. If I know that drawing or journaling makes me feel good, I can invest that extra time I have now that I may not have had before, after practice or after a late dinner or late game or any kind of event that I had to take care of because of the sport. I have that time now. I can do all of those things, or I can learn a new coping skill. A lot of times people use this time to search new things, find new ideas, look for that fun, that thrill, things that get you excited, things that make you laugh. I always encourage people to laugh, especially when talking about heavy things. It's so important to use humor. It's so important to laugh. And one of my tricks in counseling is I always keep a Laffy Taffy in my office. And for all of my clients, whenever we get through a really tough session, we always read the corny joke that's on the Laffy Taffy just to laugh, because that humor, that smile, it just means something. We're connecting, and sometimes it's okay to laugh. I tell people, just watch a funny comedy, anything, read a silly joke, talk to your friend who's funny. It's just that humor can get us so far, especially in a time like this. So using and investing in our coping skills is so important. And we can really grow from that. Next is focusing on your mental and physical health. So what does that mean? I always like to say, stick to the basics. So I always say that babies get it right. I go back to toddlers a lot. They eat and sleep on a routine as best as we can keep them on a routine. And the idea is the same thing for children, adolescents, teenagers, adults. Keeping a routine is so important. It's something we can control. We can outline our structure. We can outline our routine, keep that routine. Again, connectedness, connecting with our friends, connecting with our family members, connecting with the people who matter to us, investing in those relationships. Back to the basics with adequate sleep, making sure we're going to bed at a normal time, making sure we're getting up at a routine time, following a healthy meal plan or a healthy regimen. Just because we're not exercising doesn't mean everything else has to fall out of place. We can control our sleep routines, we can control our eating habits, and we can keep that routine and structure as best as possible in just a different way. I like to call it a new normal. What does our new normal look like? What does our new normal feel like? Nothing is the same right now, and we're adapting, we're adjusting, and we're overcoming. Keeping that structure, keeping that routine is so important because it's something we can control. Practicing positive self-talk, a simple but powerful tool to just say, I got this. I'm okay. It's okay to not be okay. Acknowledging that there's still a lot of positives about us as athletes, as individuals, that make us unique, that make us special, that make us feel good. Allowing yourself time to rest and recover. One of my favorites is doing things that feel good to you. Find things that give you meaning, purpose, feelings of love and happiness. What I hear from a lot of clients is dogs. Playing with our dog, going for walks for the dogs. There's been so many things out there about how the dogs are like so tired of being walked. It's like, invest in what's right here, what's accessible to us, to enjoy, to make us smile, to make us feel loved and cared about. Our dogs or our pets can definitely do that for us when we walk in the door after a stressful day or a stressful school day, or a practice that didn't go so hot. We get those kisses, we get those snuggles, and it can feel good. Find things that give you meaning, that give you purpose, that make you light up and feel love and happiness. Are there opportunities for growth? So through this pandemic, through these challenges, through these changes, are there opportunities here for growth? Can we change a negative to a positive? For some student athletes, the pandemic has offered a respite, which means a rest from stressors of their sport, everyday practices or two-a-day practices, or a practice, a game, and a team dinner. They find that they can relax more. They're sleeping better. they're able to reconnect with people. They're able to reach out to a friend they might not have talked to, or schedule a dinner with someone that they may not have been able to before. Using the free time as an opportunity to try something new. What does this look like? People say all the time, well, if I can't play my sport, I can't do anything. That's not true. Like I said before, maybe I can't play a high school sport, but I could play a rec sport. Maybe I can't play a high school sport, but I can play a pickup game, or find a neighbor to throw a ball with, or to hit a few balls, or to pass the ball back and forth. Find new hobbies. This is a time to explore, a time to be creative, a time to be innovative. Investing in yourself will always be an investment. It will always be a good investment for you, for yourself, for the people around you. You can volunteer. So I've a lot of like blood donations, or just helping out in the communities, food drives. There's been so many volunteer opportunities that have presented themselves through this time that are so meaningful, that give us purpose, that give us meaning, to make us feel like we made a difference. Some of my teenagers have looked at the opportunity of looking at part-time jobs. Does this now allow them a free time in their schedule to be able to make a little extra money? I'm not sure if I know many teenagers who don't want some extra money to buy new shoes, or the next Xbox coming out. I know that's the new thing right now. So it's like, how can I do that for myself? How can I make extra money? How can I learn new skills that will travel with me throughout the rest of my life? A lot of kids investing in podcasts right now, or looking at their values and saying, like, this is what I want to do with my life. These are some options I have. And just considering all the opportunities that are here and are present right now that may not have been present had we been so entwined with a sport, or stressed with all the responsibilities that come along with sports. And I know that is significant for student athletes and families alike. It's like your entire schedule revolves around that one or two commitments, and we're all in. Like Kristen said at the beginning, everybody's in, everybody's there, everybody's doing the same thing. This now allows families to maybe enjoy dinner at the dinner table instead of on the go, or to enjoy game night, or watching a movie on a Friday night, and just spending that time that we'll never get back that time, but it's how we spend that time. And it's like, I can choose to spend it wisely and positively, or I can choose it being upset and dwelling and struggling, instead of seeing this as an opportunity to grow, a chance for growth, a chance for change. Some questions we've had is how do you want to continue to engage in your sport? So as I mentioned before, does that mean rec? Does that mean pickup games? Does that mean I'm graduating from high school and I'm going on to college and I decided not to play, or to just invest in my studies? Even with no competition on the horizon, we can reflect and remember our commitment to why. Why did we join this sport? Re-examining our why. What is the purpose of this sport? For some athletes I talk to, it is the release, the outlet. It makes them feel good. If their team is really good, it makes them feel good, but then also running or communicating with our teammates, our coaches, that positive praise, it makes us feel positive. When we re-examine our why, we're looking at what makes me me. Where else can I find that outlet? So one thing for me personally, I went from a lot of strength training, being in the gym every day, weightlifting, to the gyms are shut down. What do? And as right before we started, I said, well, I built a gym in my house. Not everybody has that opportunity, but I invested in running. I was like, okay, if I can't strength train, what else can I do? And I would go for runs. And I just found that there's so much value in this time that we're being given, to see it as an opportunity to change, to try something new, to challenge ourselves in other ways. So whereas I may not have been a good runner before, I'm a better runner now because I forced that into my schedule. And I say, hey, I get to go for a run, instead of I may have in the past that I have to go for a run. We make that mind shift change to I get to instead of I have to. It changes us. It changes how we look at things. And sometimes we would say, I have to go play this sport, or I have to go to my game tonight, so I have to choose between a game and my best friend's birthday party. Right now, it's I get to choose what I'm doing with my time, how I'm investing in my time. and what still fulfills my why. With the restrictions, with the requirements that are changing every day, constantly changing, whereas some people didn't think they would play at all. So there was no playing. So some restrictions were lifted to there's no spectators. There's so many things changing every single day, even to school closures right now and sports stopping in the middle of the practices or things just happening. We have no control again over those things, but we can examine that why. Why are we doing this to ourselves, or why are we in this position? We may never know why we are facing this pandemic or what is going on, but we know our why. We know that if I can't go for a run with my team, I can go for a run by myself, and that is my outlet. That is my strength. That's what makes me better. It doesn't mean that because I can't go for a run, I eat a bad meal, carries over to a poor night's sleep, carries over to I didn't wake up for class online or in person until 11 o'clock. When we re-examine the why we're doing these things, we find that new meaning, that new purpose, that new normal. What gives us that outlet, or that adds strength to our lives or value to our lives? We can really adjust and overcome and accommodate what's happening in our lives. And we just really learn all of those skills rather quickly when we focus on controlling what we can control. So
Casey, I just wanted to just talk about one of the whys. So I have 3 sons, and my middle son is a senior this year, and he plays lacrosse for the high school. And everything shut down right as their season was getting started, right? They literally were going to have their first scrimmage, and that was it. Where they were going was closed, and that was the end of it. So he was pretty bummed, obviously, and the whole team was. But we talked about it, and he's pretty good at expressing himself. And he said, "Mom, I just like to be part of it. Just part of it, just part of the team. And even if they're not competing, they're not playing." This is like during lockdown, right? This is in the spring. Just being part of the group text, just being in that, those kids are all connecting that way. The coach is reaching out to them. And, so for a kid like that, his why, he's a fine enough player, but he's not playing in college or anything like that. But for him, the why is being part of it, being part of that team. So that was interesting perspective from him, because I thought he would be so much more upset, and he was, about not playing. But for him, it's that connection of being part of that team, in his words. So while again he was bummed, it was they still had that connection through their group text and their discords and their games or whoever they all connect. That's the beauty of the times that we live in, that they are able to still connect that way. So I just thought that was just was an interesting point from from a kid.
absolutely. And thank you so much for sharing that. Having a son, being in it, going through it, I think speaks volumes to what everybody's experiencing. And again, talking about how everybody experiences it differently, how schedules change, routines change. There's just so much change. And I think it's just so important to understand, validate, acknowledge that it's different for everybody, and nobody is doing it right or wrong. And we need to have those conversations. And that's what's important, is what is your why? Talk to someone about your why, talk to them about what's going on, how you're feeling, how you're thinking. Because a lot of times what our brains do for us without even knowing is they complete the story. So whether or not we know the end of the story, or we think we know, we don't know unless someone's telling us, or we're having those conversations or asking those questions. And that's where it gets tricky, is because our brains can just complete what we think we know, and it could be totally different. Not that it's not impactful, or that it's not different for everybody, because it is, but asking those questions is what's truly important, to have those conversations about what are they thinking, what are they feeling, and that's so important right now. So on this slide here, what we're talking about is signs that you may need a little bit more support. So what I like to call these is some warning signs to say, there's something I'm feeling that I'm not normally feeling, or that feels beyond my control, or that I could talk to somebody about this and work some of these things out. And it includes anger, irritability, a low frustration tolerance, a little bit of snappiness we may see, of just kind of that frustration. And a lot of times what that is that we don't have our outlet, or we're not using an outlet. If something was taken from us, instead of saying like, let me replace it, let me find something new, we kind of stop there. We feel like we hit a wall and that outlet is gone. And we don't realize that running or stretching or playing was really our outlet, and we need to come up with some more outlets. I often encourage people to have at least 2 or 3 physical outlets, but then also 2 or 3 internal mental outlets, things to help us regulate ourselves without anybody else knowing. So sitting in a classroom or sitting at the dining room table, focusing on our breathing. One of my favorite things to tell students is to count their teeth, because it just gives them that second to do something that they've never done before, likely. To count their teeth, it just takes that time to just take a breath, do something different, calm ourselves down, and think about in that moment, why am I so angry, or what is this really about, and acknowledge that feeling to allow us to express it or talk about it. Some inability to concentrate, very normal, to struggle with classes or focus or attention. A lot of times what I'm hearing from so many students right now is the feeling tired or low energy, and that doesn't necessarily have to be from sports. That could be the time we're spending in front of computers. It's significantly increased. A lot of students were like, school was in person and then home was the video games, or like on the bus rides, or just being out with friends. It was like the phones, the iPads, the tablets, everything. And now it's like our whole day is on a computer. And the best thing I suggest is take a nap, take a break, that disconnect. Allow yourself to say, I'm tired, I need to step away from this, I need to take a break to recharge, refresh. Withdrawing from friends and family, so that isolation. Significant changes in eating and sleeping, feeling worthlessness, hopelessness, feeling like we are not us without a sport can really be where we have that concern. We may want some extra help finding who we are, how we want to live our lives, what we want to do, what else gives us meaning and purpose. A professional can definitely help you with those questions. Loss of enjoyment of things we used to enjoy. So that lack of motivation, that lack of enjoyment, not doing the things that used to fulfill us, definitely a cause for concern. Unexplained pains, headaches, stomach aches, definitely something that we want to pay attention to, is those physical symptoms that may be happening within us, and sharing those with family members, or our caregivers, our coaches, our teachers, the nurse at school. Talk about those things, those internal things that are causing us some stress on our bodies. And you would be surprised how many different ways stress can manifest in our bodies, from headaches to shoulder pains to backaches to an injury. When we put our body under a significant amount of stress, there's just so much that comes out of it that our body actually physically changes. The last one here is definitely important to talk about. So thinking or talking about death, suicide, or self-harm, we would definitely want to reach out to emergency services at that point, and getting help as soon as possible from a crisis team or the emergency room, or dialing 911 is so important, and a huge sign that through this, it's really difficult, and we really want to seek out some support from someone that is a professional. So caregivers, teachers, and coaches, what should we be looking for? Definitely changes in sleeping patterns. So are they getting 8 hours of sleep daily? I know a lot of my teenagers are like 10, 12-hour sleepers. And that's important. If knowing our students' sleeping schedules, are they getting to bed on time? Are they waking up on time? Not allowing that schedule to get thrown off because school's not in person at this time for some people, or because there's something happening in the morning that allows them to sleep in. We want to keep that routine. We want to keep that structure. We want to make sure they're getting adequate sleep and taking care of themselves. Change in behavior. Noticing the irritability, talking about the irritability, talking about lack of energy, talking about what we're noticing, allowing them to realize that we're paying attention. We see that, we're acknowledging that, giving them a voice, giving them the words, the tools to say, it's okay to not be okay. I need to acknowledge what I'm feeling, and sharing what we're seeing, not just ignoring it or chalking it up to oh, they're just angry today, or they're just a teenager. Talk about those things, give them the vocabulary, the skills to be able to share and talk about what's happening for them. Change in activity patterns. So are they engaging less with family members? Are they staying alone in their room? Are they skipping dinner? What's happening in their activity patterns that we can look out for? Are they skipping practices? So if there is practices but no games, are they skipping the practices? Holding them accountable to their activity patterns, coming up with that schedule, that routine of, we're going to commit to this for a week, or we're going to commit to this for a day or a month, and trying to create that activity pattern for them. If we see a shift or a change in that, get them up, get them moving. Second to naps, I always encourage exercise. So napping and exercising is so important for our students and our teenagers to just get up and move. Paying attention to their eating patterns. Are they eating too much? Are they eating too little? Are they eating, like, what are they eating? Is it nutritious? Is it valuable? Having those conversations about like meal planning, meal prepping, and having adequate nutrition, and taking those steps to create that structure and routine of still breakfast, lunch, and dinner, or smaller meals throughout the day, maybe 6 times a day, or having snacks, having things on hand to make sure that they're eating well. They're home more now, so we want to make sure that they're eating well, they're well nourished, and that we're taking care of those eating needs for sure. Changes in their overall health. So do they complain of those headaches, stomach pains, muscle pains, injuries? Is it easier or harder for them to maintain their overall health? Paying attention to some of those red flags, following up with your doctor, making sure that we're really acknowledging what they're saying to us. Chronic headaches, very common right now. Tiredness, very common right now. Some weight gain, very common right now, goes back to those eating habits. We want to be mindful of all of those things and pay attention to what is happening for us. And lastly, that change in mood. So do you see the mood swings? Is it out of the ordinary? Is there crying? Is there laughing? So I have, just as much as I have witnessed the crying and the sadness and that side of things, I have witnessed people laughing hysterically at something that really, really hurts them. And that's something to acknowledge. Like, what are we hiding behind? What is really there when you're laughing but telling me about something that really is hurtful to you, or that you really are not happy about? It's a defense mechanism, and acknowledging that and calling it and allowing them to say, oh, this is what it's really about. Like, this person's not just going to let me get by. I need to pay attention to those things as well. And what I have here lastly is, where do we go? So what if we have a concern, or we are looking for support, where do we turn? So students definitely have a lot of mental health resources at their fingertips, especially today's day and age. School counselors are a great resource. There's a student assistance program that can make referrals, that can connect to resources, and really have someone advocate for you, be involved, ask questions, and really be the support person for you to obtain mental health services or a little extra support, a group. It also helps the school know, like, what are the needs? If we have 10 SAP referrals from student athletes, what does that look like? What can we put in place to help those students? So I know for our program, it could be running a group for student athletes, that every student athlete who wants to be there can come and talk about what they're feeling, what they're thinking, how it's impacting them, and we support them in that. So there's a lot of resources just within the schools and that student assistance program. Outreach to a support. That could be a family member, a caregiver, anybody who would have access to an insurance card. There is a mental health number on the back of all insurance cards that can connect you to mental health services that are in network with your insurance provider. And super important, it's a great tool to use. Not many people know about it, but just using that number and calling and seeing what's available, or what your benefits cover, or who is in network, is so important to get that piece of information on what can be offered to your student athlete. Local county crisis. So every county has a local county crisis department. You can just do that by a quick Google search. I listed the 2 most common ones that we work with here. So for Lehigh County and Northampton County, the crisis department has so many resources. They can provide phone support, they can provide in-person follow-ups, emergency services. There's just so many resources that they have at their fingertips. If there is an emergency, a crisis, really definitely want to reach out to your local crisis department. I added here the crisis text line. I know students, this is very popular texting, more than having phone calls in today's day and age. Nobody wants to talk on the phone. So it's using that text line and just asking for that support. And there's always someone at these 1-800 numbers to talk, to walk you through it. This one here for PA, the PA 24/7 mental health crisis support was designed specifically for COVID. So this is very unique to Pennsylvania, very unique to COVID. There is somebody there 24/7 that you can call and talk to. The United Way is a great resource for just like food, shelter, any kind of resources that may just be out of the ordinary or extra for these circumstances. This is very hard times for so many people that it's just sometimes beneficial to have these extra resources at our fingertips, or for somebody we may know, someone who may not even be on this presentation, but we've heard their story or we understand what they're going through. We can offer that extra line of support to them. And this last one here is a resource called teamcentral.com. There's abundance of resources there. It's an interactive website. There's for the Lehigh Valley, it's accessible to anybody, and teenagers again would find it very beneficial for just having that. I don't have to talk to someone face to face or on the phone. I can just kind of search and read and look at what's there. There's just so many valuable resources on there that can be really helpful and just talk about a variety of topics that come to mind during this time, especially, or just in ordinary teenage life. So we're gonna end here with a quote and just leaving here on a positive note that life is not always a celebration. So be ready to courageously face disappointments when they come and be sure to grow stronger and wiser from it. So there's value in what we're going through. I always say you grow through what you go through. Sometimes people are like, that's so cliche, and it can be, and it is sometimes, but it's important that we do grow through all these circumstances. We can become stronger from this. We can become a better team, a better student, a better individual, a better athlete, a better anything right now, if we choose to grow and become stronger and wiser from these experiences. And that is where I'm going to leave off. If anybody has any questions, Kristen, did you want questions in the chat or unmute?
You're muted, Kristen.
Okay. There was a question. Yeah, you guys can just, Thomas Lasisko had put in the chat, he said, your emphasis on the sense of loss, family and self-identity speaks clearly to what I did not consider. Thank you for the positive solution. So.
Very welcome.
Yeah, I think, again, I can only speak, you know, from my own personal experience in my house with my 3 kids, but then, you know, I'm talking to educators all the time, you know, through Weller, and, you know, we're just hearing so much, like I started out saying that, where, you know, just the athletes are just really struggling. And I think a lot has to do with that social identity that Casey spoke about. You know, that's their sense of self. You know, a lot of times it's everything, and it's all consuming for families. You know, I see, as I've said this before in other presentations, I feel like the kids are getting over things quicker than the parents. So, you know, these are families in crisis, right? Because this is what they've waited for. This is what they spend all of their weekends doing, tournaments all year round. You know, we're no longer is it just, you know, we play soccer in the fall. You know, we play soccer all year round, and that goes for, you know, all these sports. So the families are really, really struggling. And then, you know, you have multiple kids in a family, and what does everybody do now? That's what we do. We're a soccer family, you know? So I see a lot of that. I just see a lot of that. And, but on the flip side, I've also seen kids doing some awesome things. Really, you know, now you said you built a gym in your basement. So not only do we have a gym in our basement now, we have boxing, and we have an entrance to the back. They can go through there's a stairs in the backyard. And so I just see my office is in the kitchen, and I just see boys going back past me all day down to the downstairs. It's like a dance party, and they're just working out, and we have all the, the wipes down there, and they found a way, they found a way to be together. Again, it's, just a small group of them, but, they're working out, and, they can't have their sport right now. So they figured out a way, now they're really into boxing and want me to pay all these money to watch these events, but that's a whole nother story. But yeah, so it's, people are struggling, and I know now, I'm seeing it. My other son is on, playing football, and everybody wants the tickets, right? Because now you can have a couple of tickets per family, right? And so everybody, is freaking out to try and get tickets, but again, it just shows how this is it encompasses the whole family. It's not just the athlete. So that's what I have to say.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hello, this is Carl McBreen. I'm the superintendent of minors. Could we have this PowerPoint sent to us?
Yes, absolutely. This is being recorded, and I will absolutely be sending it to the participants to share, as well as the my master list of school contacts, which you are on. So I will get that to you.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. Also, all of the resources that Casey shared, in addition to other resources that we've shared in other presentations, we're going to be compiling them into one document and then sending that out. Weller will be doing that, to send that out to all the schools. We did that with our grief resources in the spring, and it was really, really helpful to a lot of families. So I think this is a good opportunity to get all those resources in one place and out to all the students. Because we were just talking about Teen Central today in a meeting, and it is an amazing resource for teens and kids, and they should know about that. It's an amazing place for them to go. So so look for that as well. So any other questions or comments or anything? Okay, so we and some of you may know Weller, because we're coming into the schools, and now that we're not coming into the schools because COVID, we still are doing all of our health education programs via Zoom, as well as asynchronous modules as well. So if anybody has any special requests for this type of presentation or anything else, just reach out to me, because we're really anxious to meet these new needs as they're emerging as we move forward. Because again, it's this whole new normal, and we want to be there to meet those needs as they come up. Okay. All right. Well, if there are no other questions, then I want to thank Casey so much. It was great collaborating with you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And just thank everybody for coming. I will be sharing this link with you. And you can share it far and wide. So, okay.
Oh, Kristen, I just wanted to add one thing. Thank you so much for the presentation and for doing it later in the day when we have some time to sit down.
Yeah,
so thank you, Casey.
You're very welcome.
Yes, thank you very much.
If anybody was playing sports, that they would be home by now.
I appreciate your time. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. All right, signing off. I think.
Yeah, me too.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.